Why do drivers leave behind something that is like home? What happens to the street after the voices that used to ring through the night are gone? Big Chief, also known as Justin Shearer, was more than simply a driver. He was the brains behind the 405 list, the silent gold standard, and the guy who wore the crown without jewels because of tire smoke. As a result, the fans did more than just notice when he said goodbye in early 2022. There was no contract breakup or blown-up quarrel that led to Big Chief's departure. It was mellower and muted. Chief's departure was not due to some blown-apart argument or contract dissolution. It was more somber and silent. As he later explained on his YouTube show, the passion he initially felt for the franchise wore off in the harsh light of reality TV's perpetual appetite. "I didn't enjoy what I was watching anymore," he admitted. "It was not about fame. It was not about money. It was about integrity. It was looking into the mirror and not recognizing the racer anymore, but recognizing instead the character in another man's narrative." Big Chief did not disappear, but turned to social media, posted builds, races, reflections. Still racing and grinding, but on his own terms. What do we do with the thing we've created that no longer feels like ours? For Big Chief, the solution was easy. Walk away before it alters you. Jerry Monza Johnston was the type of driver who didn't pursue the limelight. He came and drove like crazy. He was a mainstay of the original Street Outlaws, but his departure in 2023 was different. There was no drama. There were no headlines. There was silence. It was only later that he came clean. Pilgrim Studios, the production company behind the show, requested him to accept a cut in compensation. After all those years of devotion and planning to grow his crew, the request came across as a punch in the gut. He quit. Imagine spending decades climbing the ladder, only to be informed your value in some way decreased. It's one that rings all too familiarly, not only in racing, but in life. Yet Monza did not allow that to define him. He sold bad attitude, was that cherished 70 Chevelle, and continued racing. Quiet, steady, proud. James Reaper Goad always did things on his own terms. He departed the show in 2018 with a bang, going after Big Chief in a call-out for perceived favoritism and the validity of the 405 list. The series of events took place in the public eye, on YouTube, in live streams, wherever he happened to be able to speak. But there is also controversy. Reaper's vehicle was criticized for violating the very laws he set out to uphold. It was labeled by some as a pro-mod in drag, the street version of something far more sophisticated. Whether or not it's true, the harm was already done. Since that time, Reaper has remained outspoken, notably regarding Big Chief's departure in 2022. His TV future is unlikely, but that may be his preference. There are those who race for cameras and others who race for redemption. JJ Dawboss's right-hand guy, Anthony Turtle Smith, used to work on engines and patrol the streets with JJ's Memphis gang. That all came to an end in 2021. An argument with fellow driver Larry Larson turned ugly. Firearms came into play, accusations were spread, and in an instant, Turtle was gone. Who knows what actually happened? JJ said that it was all about money and pointed the accusing finger at Turtle's wife. Turtle's family answered with theirs. It is somewhere in the middle that the truth is located, but that is not what is of greatest importance. But there's also another side of the track that we don't always understand, where love of racing meets the deadlines of production, internet critics, and constant pressure to beat yesterday's run. It is simple to lose sight of the fact that behind each car is a living body, a person with a mortgage, with a body that sorely hurts after every crash, and with a mind that sometimes whispers, "Is it still worth it?" For several of the cast members, from the very beginning, the show was a dream come true. Yet with time, the endless filming, contract constraints, and control struggles made that dream less easy to love. When racing becomes work and not escape, the magnitude of that transformation is gut-wrenching. And if and when those drivers do leave, it is not weakness, it is survival. The reason these departures were so hard is because we rooted for them very deeply, and not because of talent, but because of who these guys were. Big Chief wasn't only fast, he was the leader. Monza wasn't only experienced, he was reliable. Turtle, Reaper, the whole 405 and Memphis crews, they were from a part of America that doesn't normally make it onto TV. Tough, rough around the edges, loyal. When those faces disappear from our screens, it is personal. We're not losing a show, we're losing a brotherhood, a mythology forged in burnout and midnight wrenches. Possibly it is not the end. Perhaps something pure, genuine, and unrestricted is about to begin. As one era cools with its engines, the next one is beginning to rev. These are not stories of burnt rubber and canceled deals. They're stories of identity and passion. They include the price of creating legend and the agony of witnessing it turn into something that is not what it used to be. Street Outlaws was never so much about the vehicles. It was about belonging. And when the community breaks down, when the raceway is turned into a set and drivers into actors, something essential is lost. The exit of its most recognizable stars revealed more than backroom politics. It revealed increasing tension between entertainment and authenticity. And no moment marked the change more than the loss of a driver, an unthinkable tragedy said to seal the franchise's doom. Even with signed waivers and danger known, the legal consequences chilled the air. What firm wants to play dice with anguish? As Discovery struggles in its pursuit of streaming, turning toward cheaper productions and squeezing every last penny from old standby favorites such as Gold Rush and Shark Week, the heyday of Street Outlaws as television heavy hitters is numbered. But street racing is not dying, it's changing. Platforms such as YouTube are taking up the slack that are raw, in the moment, and unaltered. Live streams are getting better. Fans are getting more information in a 10-minute live stream than in an hour show that is highly produced. Drivers are chattering, making remarks, and laughing. Not a script, no output. Car culture in its purest form. No prep king survives, albeit not on the budget one might expect. Few drivers ever receive good payouts. They mostly support themselves. And now, in the absence of Discovery's enormous reach, NPK has to construct its own empire from scratch. The races are neater now, more like NHRA races than rough street battles. The instant green is in danger of being removed. As gripes mount from strip racers, the chaos is dissolving. The Polish is beginning to set in. But is that what we were looking for? We are left with questions that ring louder than the burnout smoke. When the television show no longer captures the essence of the streets, do we continue watching? If heroes we once admired leave, what message is that of the world that has been left behind? Can the magic of Street Outlaws be revived on new platforms? Or will it turn into just one more nostalgic footnote in the history of motorsport? One thing is certain. Cars will roar, tires will scream. Someone along the way is racing for honor, not pay. And perhaps, quite possibly, that is where the real story exists these days. Perhaps Street Outlaws was not always about racing. Perhaps it was never only about who reached the finish line first or who owned the toughest build on the block. It was about witnessing something real and unscripted happen. About grit, loyalty, heartbreak, and the raw, unbridled rush of believing in something greater than yourself. It was about proving what happens when regular guys with grease-stained hands, scuffed boots, and unyielding hearts choose to pursue something together, and that in itself is empowering. The true legacy of Street Outlaws exists in the after-hours nights spent beneath the lift, the sound of the engine revs on vacant streets, and the relationships made in the pits and side roads. It exists in the children still discussing the 405 crew, still debating who owned the fastest launch, still fantasizing about the vehicle that can leave skepticism behind. That legacy doesn't disappear with the shutdown of the cameras. That legacy is not owned by a television station. It exists in all of us, drivers, followers, and every individual who has ever experienced the need to prove something behind the steering wheel.